This is Browny's Podcast! Hey! This is Browny's Podcast. Degenerates, round 9 is in the can, and for once we're all in the studio. How are you feeling, Jonathan?
Oh, it's great to be here, absolutely. Yesterday, got out and played golf. Beautiful weather down here in Victoria. Went and played with my mate George, who we know, Dino.
Our mate George. He loves a drink.
He loves a drink. I didn't know whether the fog was created from Melbourne's weather though, and the fog, or from the darts that he was chewing back before the first tee.
And if I could just give everyone a visual about George, he's the skinniest man on earth.
Yeah.
No ass, and his legs start at his nipples.
So he started his nipples and bottle of scotch compulsory game.
What time?
7:30 on my first shot. It was quite amazing.
Mother's Day, let's get yours out of the way.
I did Werribee versus Footscray out at Avalon Airport Oval, so it was magnificent.
And you?
I celebrated with my mother. We had a barbecue. It was beautiful.
That's good.
Yeah, how'd you go, Dino? Did you ring your mum?
I rang Mum. She's doing great. I sent her some goodies in the mail.
Really?
Yeah.
Edible goodies?
No, Mum does not do drugs. My mum on drugs would be a big mistake.
Yes.
She would. But I posted a photo of us in Quirting where we used to drive around with a sheep in the front passenger seat.
What was the sheep called?
Spinner.
Spinner.
And we used to put a seatbelt on it.
Why did you drive around with Spinner in the front seat?
Because we were strange, broke country folk.
Did you eventually eat Spinner? Spinner
May have ended up on our plates.
Really?
Really?
Lamb cutlet.
You gotta eat. You gotta eat.
You do have to eat. I've got a sheep out of my property. We called it Guinea because lamb bikini. So I thought that was a nice little play on words.
It is lovely.
We haven't eaten Guinea yet.
Do you plan to eat Guinea?
I don't think so. Not unless things go terribly bad on the punt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a very reasonable chance. I've seen the way you go. Did you think at the time, though, Dino, did you feel pangs of guilt throughout its upbringing, Spinner? Because you knew you were going to consume it at some stage?
Yeah,
or?
so for every nice moment we had in the backyard of play, I just was looking at him like he was tasty. You know what I mean? KB, all good? She have a good Mother's Day?
She had a great Mother's Day. The kids were crook.
Also, all you mums out there, we'd be absolutely useless without you.
Well, we wouldn't be around without them.
We've got that's a very good point. And that's just science, isn't it, Doc?
Well, ask someone in today's age, and they'll probably try and explain to you that men can have babies and children as well. But
welcome back
we won't go down that path of stupidity.
To Fox News. That's me. What a world's coming up later.
It is true, though. I'll back you up there.
Thanks, guys.
That's just not true.
It's biologically fact.
It's no shit. What's happening? You're deliberately trying to make me angry today, aren't you?
The left and the right sometimes collide.
Okay, all right. So, footy. What a weekend of footy.
Hang on, I want to back
The
over
mediator.
This. Dino, you're saying you're planning to have a baby at some stage. Do you think that's scientifically possible?
Have you ever seen Junior starring Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Great movie.
Thank
Danny
you.
DeVito. What a round, Dino.
Round 9 has come and gone, and I loved it. I've noticed those new gambling ads, by the way. You win some, you lose some.
You lose more.
More.
Yeah. He hasn't even got it right.
They're not working.
You win some, you lose more. When those very
Don't you dare edit that out either, Dino.
What are you really gambling with?
When those very bold new warnings play after a jovial betting ad, Campbell sees only one thing. You win some. Oh, wait, what? There's another one. What are you prepared to lose today? Said Campbell, as much as it takes. Commentators, they need to talk less. Is anyone with me on this?
I tell you what, the Adelaide game to me yesterday, my mum's an Adelaide supporter, so I was like, you know what, I'll sit at home and watch the Adelaide game with her. And when I looked at the commentary team and heard them, that's almost instantaneous shut off. You had Dermot Brereton, which is a bad start. Anything that Dermot's on, I'm pretty much out.
Hey, the kid's the best.
And then you had Roo on special comments. I'm like, all right, it's a mute job.
Mate.
And Hutto. So Hutto, Roo.
Hutto's a great commentator.
Listen to me.
Dino, who are you referring to? What game?
Listen, you just listen to me as both of you as commentators. You can talk less. You can let the play breathe without just filling it with thoughts.
No radio, you can't.
Yes, you can. You just let the sound effects. Ever heard Premier League? They just let it breathe without some bullshit anecdote that goes
There's also
nowhere.
nothing to talk about in soccer because it's the worst sport on earth.
It's a good point, Dino.
Thank you. You're not going to lose your job if no one doesn't hear your shit stories, is my point. Big power mark from Joe Danaher this round.
6 out of 10. Great night.
Hey, just me, or is he properly filled out finally?
Yeah, he has.
For the first time, he doesn't look gangly. He's looked gangly a lot of his career.
He's a father now.
Now he's a big man. It's almost as if Jonathan's shoulders f***ed off and joined his body.
Yeah, I wish I had his shoulders.
Carlton. Oh boy. 1 goal and a half pretty much. And then a miraculous comeback to hit the lead twice. Only just to f*** it again.
Yeah.
They're the new Richmond.
There was some booing going on as well again. Carlton supporters. Then they got excited when Charlie Curnow kicked that goal. The roof nearly lifted off the stadium.
I think they're the new Richmond from 10 years ago.
Ninth.
My thoughts are with their fans, the Blue Ballers. Now let's talk about Harry Mckay, because I feel real bad for this guy. That was some wild shit that happened during that game against the Dogs.
Reminiscent of Ian Baker Finch post the British Open win back in '91, I think, when do you remember that? He was a major winner and then got the worst case of yips, that he was out of the game in a couple of years. I can't help but think that poor old Harry's got the yips. He's not playing well around the field, but when he looks at those goals, I reckon they look as wide as a toothpick at the moment. So he doesn't know whether he's Arthur or Martha when it comes to his goal-kicking routine. But you will never, ever convince me, no matter how much practice you do, that a snap around the corner from 45 out directly in front has a higher percentage success rate than a drop punt. And that's exactly what he did. And it's so deflating for the rest of his team. Obviously the crowd, but in terms of his team, it's so deflating to his teammates when he misses like that.
Since he skied that one a couple of weeks ago from a snap, obviously, as soon as Monday hit, he would have been out there practicing goal kicking.
He practices a lot.
Absolutely. Like, of course he does. He wants to do good. The club wants him to do good. So what's happening on the game? Do you reckon he just made a snap decision to try and go for a big snap again, or do you reckon that's the plan?
Well, I don't know what the plan is, because he's too inconsistent with his routine. For me, he hasn't got a solid routine that'll stand up under pressure. And obviously now mentally, which we all go through. When you go through periods where you're going through slumps or certainly doubts in front of goal.
I don't.
You need to lean back. Well, you don't. You've never been able to reach any sort of level, mate. So what was the highest level you reached?
Fifth.
No, I was vice captain of the thirds.
Bro, do you think this
Do you know how f***ing shit you have to be to dedicate your life to footy and then be a thirds footballer?
Yes.
You're shit, Brody.
Back to Mckay.
So back to Mckay. What you need to lean into during periods of doubt and all those sorts of things, especially with pressure kicks, is your routine. And that routine has to be consistent every single time you have a shot at goal, including a training. Whether it's a Tuesday session, it's going at 50%. You need to practice with a man on the mark, and you need to do the same thing over and over again. I would never practice anything outside of my routine, even if it was just a kick down. If I was going in the park with Kyles and having a kick for goal, a set shot.
There's nothing Kyles loves more than...
Nothing more romantic.
Hey, darling.
Get behind the goals and kick these back to me.
But she would not only gather the ball and kick it back out to me. I then would wait for her to run out and be the man on the mark, or in this case, the woman on the mark.
Oh, it's amazing.
But no, in all seriousness, to me, it just doesn't look like he has a consistent routine. So therefore, it's not going to stand up under pressure, don't I?
JB, do you think there's an element in footballers these days that a snap is harder to execute than a drop punt, right? So that's their out in their head. If I kick around the body here and I miss, it's not as bad because it's a snap. Like I feel like it takes the pressure off.
It's an out. Absolutely.
It's an out.
And coaches in our industry, they believe in that as well. I believe in that. You believe in that. So unfortunately, Harry's just completely lost his confidence. And you know what, Dino? Going out there and practicing and doing 1,000 shots, that's not the cure-all, because you need to find, it's hard to replicate pressurised situations and game-like situations. So what I found was less is best to create that pressure. So I would have less shots at goal during the week.
Really?
But I knew those shots I took, I felt as if there was a lot of pressure on them because I only had a minimal opportunity to get it right. So I would only I was allowed a maximum of 10 post-training. Had to be in a proper... Try to be in a game setting where you would run and you'd be fatigued and the coach would be on the man on the mark. The set shots that you would have during the training session, And then outside of that, I would limit it. So if I walked off the field, Dino, and I'd kicked 4 goals and 6 behinds, that was it. So I felt as if there was a bit of time pressure there. So those 10 kicks for me were big, and I was able to replicate what it felt like in a game. So when people say, he needs to practice more, or he needs to have 300 shots a week, I don't think that necessarily works that well, because I think they switch off mentally.
So if you're the senior coach, right, you have significant weight as to what you say in a team meeting. When Clarko got to Hawthorn, he basically said, I don't believe in long sleeves, so no one's wearing them, right? Mark Williams and a few players used to wear long sleeves. They all of a sudden didn't. If you're a senior coach and you don't believe in the snaps around the body at certain angles, obviously when you're tucked up on the boundary line and things like that, you need to. But if you're directly in front and Vossi says, at this footy club, we do not kick around the body, right? We have our set shots. Every player would do it, because if you don't, you'll be dropped. Not that Mckay would ever get dropped, right? But, like...
Oh, he might. He keeps going the way he's going.
But
he's
you
12 goals for the year in 9 games.
A senior coach can do that. Come in and say, we are not doing this anymore, bang. And the rest of the footy club would fall into line.
Who used to play for Richmond with the comb over? In play, used to opt for a check side kick even in front.
I don't think any... Stevie Johnson
Williams
brought this into effect.
What did Williams used to do? Was it Williams?
The shotgun?
The shotgun. Did he have an interesting technique? Did he have a different technique, though, in front of goal?
No, he was beautiful. Everything was in line.
Yeah.
You know, nice ball drop, follow through. Everything was straight. And that's how we were taught as kids growing up. If everything's straight, the ball goes straight.
Yeah, right.
Now you're kicking around the body. If you kick the belly of the footy, you could make the easiest set shot on earth, but go out of bounds on the full by 10 metres.
It's a really good topic.
I wouldn't allow it if I was a coach, JB.
It's an interesting point you bring up, Brown Dog, because I know early days Lee Matthews used to terrorise myself and Lynchy and Daniel Bradshaw if we missed set shots early in games.
What would that sound like, I wonder?
Well, I'll tell you what, boys, you boys miss, it affects the rest of the team. So that's what it would sound like. But you would argue that's counterproductive to a player to try and relax him mentally. But mate, he just heaped the pressure on you. So you had to learn how to survive and cope with it, and to become good at it, and to fight, sort of, I suppose, break through that wall of pressure. So he didn't want to ease the pressure on you. He wanted you to accept the pressure and to embrace the pressure. And I feel as if players don't do that enough, and that's why they kick around corners at times. And that's why it's an interesting point you make. That's coaching, Brown Dog. Would a coach be prepared to come out and say, hey, boys, we're not kicking around anything inside the 45-degree angles on both sides. We are not kicking around the corner from a set shot.
Honestly, when players take a Mark 20 out directly in front, and I know that Higgins for the Saints does it a lot, it's garbage kicking around the body.
Especially if you're a Blues fan that night. Man, look, oh my God.
Oh, it's just so deflating. It's so deflating. The impact it has on your teammates is amazing, and obviously the crowd dropped out of the game as well, from an enthusiasm point of view.
Brody!
Are you starting to think that Voss might not be the right man for Carlton?
No, but that's not Vossi, mate.
Hey.
The fact that they scored
you just said it is.
1 goal in a half is absolutely him.
No, but that's not Vossi in terms of a bad goal kicking. And,
No.
you could argue, I suppose, unless Brown Dog, he followed Brown Dog's theory and said, hey, boys, you're not kicking around the corner anymore.
No, but take away from the goal kicking, 1 goal in a half is unacceptable.
Brody,
they've got shit skill. They've got one player, one Carlton midfielder in the top 100 kickers for impact kickers in the competition. And that's Andy, that's... what's Chera's first name?
Adam.
That's Adam Chera, who's ranked about 55th in the competition. They cannot hit the side of a barn wall. So
also, it's not the Premier League. Like, sacking a coach every 2 years doesn't seem smart.
No, you got to get that out of your head, bro. So it's just...
I'm speaking for the Carlton masses. That's all I'm saying.
You're a Port Adelaide man.
Get your nose out of Vossi's business. He's fine. Let's talk about Roscoe and St Kilda after that start.
Yeah.
Few wobbles now, but next they've got Giants, Hawks, and Swans, who are all going pretty.
They should
shit.
win all three if they're fair income.
Yeah, and then finals is pretty much sweet.
It's not locked in, but they'd be 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah.
Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. I mean, they're a very, very, very good football side. They should be higher than 8th. Think about a couple of the close games that they dropped, the Pies and a few. Big Tex Walker's playing some good footy. So I think the Saints, who started off unbelievably well in the first 5 or 6 weeks, they're sort of back now to the the level a little bit. They've had some injury concerns, and Jack Steele, I think, did his hammy again yesterday. But
And they know where they're at.
they should win the next 3, JB.
They know they've got a future going forward. They've got to improve in their midfield. They've got to get some more quality through their midfield. No question about that.
If they're a stock, I'm buying them right now.
Really?
Because, yep, I just think over the next couple of years, they're just going to trend upwards significantly.
Really?
This is the most SEN chat I've ever heard. Weird stock analogies for football teams.
Really?
Hey, speaking of things going up, John,
I had something.
focus on me.
I had something. for
Thinking, we're going to go to the ads here, but I'm going to leave you on this mission. Speaking of things going up, tonight you're on the couch with Nathan Buckley.
you. Yes.
And I want to get to the bottom of his finger. And Gavin's
Wanganeen.
bottom.
Oh, yes, exactly. We spoke about that last Friday's podcast, didn't we?
Are you comfortable asking him about that,
Frank?
Frank?
Off air, obviously.
Off air,
It's an
obviously.
off-air
If you'd like to do it on air, that's also fine.
I saw Bucks this morning, so he's looking he's well dressed. He's a smart man. Does an hour of yoga every day.
Does he?
An hour of yoga. Could you imagine doing an hour of yoga every day?
Mate, I wish I did.
I'd be jumping off a cliff.
So every time we would go and do yoga, we'd be in a studio in Richmond, right? And Tony was our yoga instructor. And I'd get so bored that I'd pick my toenails.
Yes.
Very similar to what I did
Yes.
in the studio.
Yeah, that was a classic moment, wasn't it? You freak.
Of Joel, Tim, and Kate. And leave him all through his yoga studio, and he would be ropeable with me.
Do you think he was ropeable because it's disgusting?
Maybe.
Is that a chance?
Yeah, probably.
yeah.
But like, Bucks does an hour of yoga. No speaking, obviously, just meditation.
I'm not
and
even
everything.
sure if it's
I want a statement.
What's that hot yoga? What's that one called?
Bikram.
No,
Bikram yoga.
it's called hot yoga now because Mr. Bikram was a bad man and did some bad things. So
Really?
now,
Did he?
And that was, very
The
bad.
son of a Bikram.
Well done, mate.
What? So they've
Son of a
cancelled.
Bikram.
They've cancelled Bikram yoga.
He is a very, very bad
He's
man.
been cancelled.
He's a bad man.
I
believe he's-
didn't
I
know
believe he's in
that.
jail.
Hey, we're going to listen to one of the great mothers in the AFL after the ads. Back in a second. It's Brownie's podcast. This is Brownie's podcast. Welcome back to Brownie's podcast. Roaming Brian.
It's one of the great segments, isn't it? It is raw television at its
Yeah.
best. You never know what you're going to get
I love it
in
too,
the
man.
rooms after a game.
Do you think when BT's in the grave, in probably another 20, 30 years' time, do you think he'll be a chance to take over roaming brown dog? Because there's not many personalities with that sort of pizzazz and colour down at Channel 7.
It's a hard gig.
You are one of them.
If I haven't been removed from my 7 duties because of Vapegate, maybe. But he needs to know. You need to know all the parents and all the people within footy clubs, not just players and CEOs, everyone.
Plus, BT's a tripper. You need a kooky person to do this.
Well, it's amazing that he knows all the people behind the scenes and all the parents, yet he doesn't know the names of some of the players.
Did you see in the front bar with the hunchback bit where they got footage of BT doing roaming Brian, and just out of nowhere he does a weird hunch as if something's up's happening to him? Did you see this?
No, I haven't seen this.
I think he's just fiddling with his mic pack, but the footage when you watch it back, it's bizarre.
I love the fact that parents now are gravitating towards
Yes.
BT, right?
Yes.
Rather than the other way around. 2 weeks ago, I saw Trent McKenzie's mum, and she was in the rooms, and she actually had brought some jocks for Trent because he'd left them interstate, and just funny things like that, which you'd never usually see or hear. The parents are having a few wines at the footy.
Yes.
They're walking in the rooms. Everyone's up and about because they've won.
Yes.
And they're just letting rip.
So the Richmond game. So he goes up to young player Samson Ryan, the big ruckman, and he's going to be a good player, I think, but he's very young. I think he's probably only played maybe 15 games or something. Anyway, his mum was at the footy and clearly had been enjoying the refreshments, and so BT bails her up and for a chat, and this how it went.
Hello. Who are you? You're Samson's mum. Wow. Tell us a little bit about
Well,
it.
he's gorgeous. What do you want me to say?
And did you meet his girlfriend for the first time tonight? Is that right?
Her name is Lily.
Is she sort
and
of here
she's
somewhere,
lovely.
or-
Yeah, do you want to talk to her?
Where is she?
She's just there. Lily! Lily!
Just put your hand up.
Lily!
Oh, no,
I can't
we
see
can't
her.
see Lily.
She had a high pitched voice in Lethal.
Hey, it's good telly.
It's great. Lily came over.
Yeah.
Lily was great. She came over.
Samson came over.
Yes, I could tell Samson looked like he was coming in to try and retrieve the
Remove her.
situation. He identified Mum from a fair way out and thought, no, I'm going to try and lasso her, but then he got roped into the interview.
Now,
Lily handled herself pretty well.
Mate, that's one of the great drunk mums. I love drunk mums. Let's go to superstitions and OCD, because I'm looking at a man right now that famously, and our podcast listeners would know that if you eat a rice dish, you cannot leave 1 grain of rice on that plate.
Not one.
Because you just feel like your insides twist, do they?
Yeah, you start a job, you got to finish it. So if you want to eat rice, you got to eat every single grain.
All right. In light of OCD and superstition, let's talk about weird-ass game day traditions. Brody, what do you got?
Well, everyone's been talking about, obviously, the Matty Rao one, so I don't know if you saw it, but Matty Rao before a game. And this is probably the start of it's not so weird, that he gets down, he rubs his hands in the grass and just kind of familiarises himself with the turf.
Yeah.
But then he starts smelling it, which again, okay, for whatever reason.
Okay.
But the weirdest part is that he pulls out big chunks of it
Yeah.
and starts eating it.
How
And
much?
Well, I'm talking like a good handful.
Mouthful.
Like
A mouthful.
a full mouthful to the point where he can't...
It's like a
He's
Jersey
visibly chewing. He's not
He's
able
at
to just
one
digest it.
with Mother Nature and terra firma.
Yeah. So he's not going a couple of blades to nibble. He's masticating, getting a paste in his mouth.
Yes, and then
wouldn't that have like fertilizer that could make it grow?
it would.
Sweat and piss and players still piss in the huddles on the ground. Don't think
No,
that,
they don't.
Hang on.
No, they don't.
Brody, don't think that doesn't happen anymore. When you get in a quarter time and 3/4 time huddle,
They're huddling.
and you gather around, you're standing there watching the coach address.
Swear on your
You
life.
just pull out the side of your pants, just the tip, and you urinate. Of course you do.
No, you do not.
Swear on your life that still happens. Like in 2023 in an AFL game,
Swear on my life.
someone's weed on the ground.
Every quarter time, 3/4 time. It's harder to see now. Players used to be quite blatant about it. There's urine everywhere.
So that used to happen when you two were playing.
Mate, I would have done it 150 times.
No, it does not.
Seriously.
Hang on a
you
minute.
can't
No,
always
I-
wait. You can't always wait till half time to go down the race and have a piss. You've got like 5-minute chat. You need to get your calves massaged and speak to your line coach. Of course you piss.
Did you do it, Brownie?
I never did it. The only
JB,
thing was-
that is a lie.
No, I never had to. I never felt the need to go during a game. But once during a prelim final, I had to have an injection in the top of my head. Injections are not allowed out in the field. I had to have a numbing injection to stop the bleeding. And they huddled around me like that as well. So usually for 2 reasons, when you see the teams huddled closely together,
There's something going on in
there's
the
a bit
middle.
of a giveaway.
Okay,
Just a couple. And sometimes if you don't aim, like if you're looking at the coach, because you've got to make eye contact, and you're not aiming properly, mate, it can go down your sock onto someone else's boot. Yeah, all the time.
It's a bit distracting though when the coach does it while he's giving the
The whiteboard. When the whiteboard goes from above their heads to just in front of their waist.
Why don't they have like a bedpan thing just to whiz in?
It feels very barbaric. It's very.
Imagine the bloke carrying the bedpan.
What's those things in
out. So you reckon the bloke carrying the bedpan back to the bench? you don't reckon that'd get the attention?
or a spittoon, a little spittoon.
All right, well, let's get back to Rao.
Anyway, sorry to go off topic. I can't believe you didn't know that.
So Rao is eating a clump of grass, and do you guys agree that it's probably something to do with like being part of the ground?
It's earthing.
and
Taking
the
earthing to
psychological-
a new level.
Gotcha. As Dog very well put.
Yeah.
What other weird game day traditions do you know about?
Well, I didn't have any myself, but we played footy with a guy called Adrian Cox. Played about 54 games for the Hawks. He had the peroxided mohawk and the earrings and everything.
Not a bad player, actually.
He was good. Booming kick on him. But he kept running out of, I suppose, energy in the second halves. His first halves would be great, and then, third, fourth quarter, he'd fade out of the game. And we couldn't work out why. Anyway, he finally sat down and he spoke to one of the coaches, and he said, "What's your game day routine like?" He said, "Well, I don't like sleeping too much, so I go to bed at about 2 a.m. pre-game.
All right, good start.
I then sleep all morning. I get up about 11 a.m.
Okay.
right,
that's
which is
late.
unusual. Right? He goes, I would have a coffee, so get myself up and about.
Okay.
I would have a Powerade to hydrate.
Smart.
I'd have a dart or two, depending on how I felt in terms of my
Just stretch the
nicotine.
lungs
Well,
out.
hey,
Yep.
it's getting a bit unstuck here.
And then I'd go to the game, and I'd be cherry ripe to go.
Okay.
And so they got him talking to a dietitian, and she said, "Well, you're basically not eating anything from the night before's dinner through till the end of the game, of course you're going to run out of fuel in the second half. So why don't you try eating something and you might be better in the second half? And he said, that's not going to work for me. And he was delisted not long after that.
It's not going to work for Hawthorn either. Tim Notting used to have a spew before every game. You'd hear him in the toilets, absolutely barking it up.
Yeah.
And Justin Sherman, he was like a centipede. He used to try on about 15 pairs of football boots and do the full parade through the change rooms.
That's nice.
Every week before the game.
Yeah.
And obviously to with him, we would say, no, they don't look any good, those ones. And then he would change. And then after about 15, they look good.
Possum.
Mate, it was unbelievable. You have about an hour, Possum would bark up. Yeah, I don't know, through whether he's deliberately doing it or he was, or it was just the anxiety around it or a superstition. Just happened at the same time every week.
Ads, back in a second.
This is Brownie's Podcast.
Welcome back to Brownie's Podcast. Now, look, just going to, before What a World, a lot of people want this bus trip to watch the Carlton Draft Bucks game to happen.
Yeah,
a lot of people want this to happen.
It's a bit outside of Warragul, so our trip there, probably a bit longer on the way home, Dean, I would have thought.
Give me and the Degenerates a percentage of its likelihood of happening.
Very high. 80+%.
That's big.
Shall I free myself up for that day?
Mate, of course. No, of course.
Yeah, you need to be free. If we put it on we know what date it is? It's the end of July, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Let me check. I've got it here.
Jeez,
Dog, it's not, you have to come.
Of course. I would like to be there. You know, I always try and make myself come.
Well, then you weren't at the first one.
To the events, I should say.
Thank you for... Yeah, we needed that. Thank you. Just go backtrack. That's what we need.
Saturday, 23rd of July.
Okay, Saturday, 23rd of July. So you need to make sure you get off. Don't get called into some, shit pot game where you've been asked, this is my big chance, Jess, I get the boundary right today. So don't worry about it. I'm not going to worry about the podcast trip where we're going to Warragul. This is going to be big. I'm going to work my way up in Lewis Martin's. Lewis Martin will be thinking, how good's Brown Dog? He might eventually elevate you to the top box.
You know that I never know when my next AFL call-up's going to be. It's like I'm just a perennial sort of shit footballer that is just, 23 to 27, and every now and then he gets his chance.
You're a role player.
You're a survivor, you son of a bitch.
You're damn right I am.
You are more value on our trip to go and watch Bucks than there is him boundary riding an AFL game that no one cares about.
Werribee versus Frankston.
I care about it. All right, what a world.
Yes.
Now, this has got the medical fraternity in real debate here. No one knows specifically if this happened or not, but it's doing the rounds on social media. And earlier in the month, a patient went for an MRI, okay, which we've all done. When you've got an injury or whatnot, you go in for an MRI. Now, what he didn't, you need to fill in forms and everything, take off any jewellery, nose rings or anything like that, and inform them if you're pregnant or whatnot. This guy didn't tell them, but he went into an MRI with a butt plug in. Okay? Yep. So unusual, but didn't think much of it. Now, he'd been told by the company that the butt plug was 100% silicone. When he went in for the MRI, the machine starts churning, you gradually go in.
They're loud, the MRIs too,
They've got loud, haven't they?
Are they magnetic as well?
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
they are.
so they are, right? That's why you've got to take all your jewellery and things off.
Gotcha.
Now,
I think M may stand for magnetic.
It does it?
Yeah, I think it does.
Bullshit. If it does.
Hang on, Brody, Google what MRI stands for. Medical.
Because the way his eyebrows went up, I think you'll find.
Magnetic resonance
There you
imaging.
go.
Okay.
All right, so the butt plug guy's getting an MRI.
So he's going in for an MRI, and unbeknownst to him, it must have had a metallic core to it because it shot
oh, no.
all the way through his body into his chest cavity and nearly killed him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Billy's had multiple surgeries, and they're all talking about whether this could have happened, whether it did happen. No one fully understands, but that is my what a world.
That's a great one. Well done.
Bit different.
Wow.
So Note to self.
When you say different, it involves butts, penises, or vaginas.
So
Yeah,
not
so it's
that
not that
different,
different.
but
No,
note to self, if
yeah.
you ever get an injury and you're going in, make sure you remove everything off
Yeah.
your body.
I wonder if you could feel
Great
it.
point, mate.
You know, it's starting to expand and just fire out like a bullet.
At the sound of light.
Wow.
Big. Hey, enjoy your weeks. Ask Bucks about the... Here's one more thing.
I want to do yoga with Bucks too. That sounds fun. Hot yoga.
You don't have to be crass about it, John. I just want to know if he meant to do it or not.
Okay, I'm writing notes here. Ask Bucks about sticking his finger up Gavin Wanganeen's bum.
Yep.
And Brown Dog wants to do yoga with you.
Okay. Hey, degenerates. See you later.